Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more.
James stood in front of the bathroom mirror, carefully applying eyeliner after smoothing on a light foundation. He wore white bikini panties, a matching bra, pantyhose, and a knee-length black skirt, items borrowed from his mother's wardrobe. The excitement came from the chance to spend the evening as a girl, something he cherished whenever possible. The apprehension stemmed from the constant fear of being caught. Though James was fairly certain his parents didn't suspect his secret, he still worried. By the time he was 15, they trusted him to stay home alone during their frequent business trips. A neighbor would stop by to check on him, but Mrs. Potter's predictable visits at 6:30 meant he never feared discovery. What worried him was becoming bolder in his choices, worrying his mother might notice her clothes were out of place, or that he might damage a pair of stockings or use her makeup more than usual. James' parents, Anna and Charles, were both attorneys. They met in law school and now ran a successful private practice that required them to travel frequently. Most trips were separate, but on the rare occasions they traveled on the same days, James would seize the opportunity to embrace his persona as Jane. On this particular evening, James decided to model his look after an intern at his parents' office. In addition to the skirt, he chose a simple white blouse and black pumps. He had already laid out a gold chain, gold bracelets, and small hoop earrings. He often felt lucky to live in a time where a boy could have pierced ears and shoulder-length hair without fear of bullying. Thanks to his parents' success, he attended a local private school, blending in with the affluent students. The only issue arose when he ventured into town and occasionally encountered a local jock looking to cause trouble. Still, the town knew James' parents were well-respected attorneys, and the risk of a lawsuit kept most bullies at bay. That night, James felt particularly delicate and feminine after taking a long, hot bath and shaving the light hair on his legs. His beard, too, was sparse and only needed shaving every few days. After he was done with the razor, his face was as smooth as a girl's, with no trace of stubble. Even at 16, his taste in clothes leaned toward a more mature style. Perhaps it was his mother's elegant dresses and suits, or maybe the way he admired the young assistants at his parents' office. Without any sisters to borrow clothes from, he often turned to his mother's closet, which had shaped his fashion sense. While he sometimes wished he could dress like the trendier girls at school, he knew his taste was more refined than others his age. As he applied his makeup, he thought about Jennifer, a recent college graduate who had started working as an intern at his mother's office. It was Jennifer's makeup and one of her outfits that James was trying to emulate. Her makeup was always perfect, maybe a bit bold for daytime, but her polished appearance and confidence made her someone James admired. James was lost in thought when the sound of the front door opening and closing sent a jolt through him. It couldn't be Mrs. Potter, she had already come by. It must be one of his parents. But his mother was in Los Angeles until Monday, and his father wasn't expected back until Saturday night. They had both come home early before, but always after giving him a heads up. Who could it be? And more importantly, how could he hide? To get to his room, he'd have to pass through the hall, and their modern house had an open layout that left the upstairs visible from downstairs. Could he make it unnoticed? He quickly gathered up the makeup, knowing he would have to carefully return it to his mother's vanity later. He peeked out the door and saw that the coast seemed clear. No one was in the entryway, and the hall to his room appeared empty. Grateful for the stockings he was wearing, he tried to move quietly. He inhaled deeply and made a dash for his room, only 8 steps away. But by the 7th step, he froze. His father was standing by his bed, holding the blouse James had planned to wear. At the sound of the makeup rattling in his hand, Charles looked up and saw James, frozen in the doorway, fear evident on his face. "Ah, James. I'm home early." "Yeah, Dad. I see. You usually call," James stammered, his voice full of panic. "I know. I guess I just forgot. It was a very stressful meeting. Sorry to catch you like this." Looks like we have some things to talk about. Oh, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know you think I'm weird. I'm so embarrassed. Can I just go change? I promise we'll talk after I change, James blurted out in a rush of anxiety. Charles only smiled. No, James. I don't want you to change. Just stay here in your room and wait until I get back. I need to think. Just wait right here, he said calmly. His soft tone helped ease some of James' tension, allowing him to sit on the bed as his father left the room. James heard the door to his parents' room quietly close behind him. Oh no, James thought. He's really upset. His father hardly ever raised his voice when he was angry. In fact, Charles was known for his calm demeanor in stressful situations, often speaking more softly the more intense things became. When he told James to wait right here, it was barely above a whisper. James knew his father was holding something back. Sitting there in just a bra and skirt made James feel exposed. Despite how good he felt in the outfit, he longed to change into his regular clothes and forget the whole situation. But his father had told him not to change, and James thought it best not to disobey. So, reluctantly, he slipped into the blouse. After buttoning it up, he put on the simple black pumps that lay beside the bed. It was almost automatic, like completing the outfit was second nature. James laughed to himself, thinking how silly it all was, yet realizing that this might be the last time he'd dress as a girl. An hour had passed, and James was beginning to feel increasingly anxious. Why hadn't his father left his bedroom? He'd heard the shower running nearly 45 minutes ago. His father must be deep in thought. James paced the room nervously, alternating between sitting on his bed and at his desk. He tried to read, but it was impossible to focus. Every few minutes, he peered out the door, hoping to catch sight of his father. Just as he was about to go check on him, he heard the soft click of his parents' bedroom door. James rushed to his bed, instinctively smoothing his skirt and sitting down, his heart pounding in anticipation. When Charles finally appeared, James nearly stopped breathing. His father walked into the room wearing a tailored grey suit, a woman's suit. It was one that James recognized from his mother's closet, a piece he had always admired but never dared try on due to its expensive look. He suspected it was brand new since he had never seen his mother wear it. His father looked absolutely stunning. The suit was made of fine wool gabardine, with a skirt that ended just above the knee and a fitted jacket with 4 buttons. Beneath the jacket, Charles wore an off-white silk blouse and a double strand of pearls. Sheer stockings with a hint of grey complemented the outfit, paired with round-toed black pumps with a block heel. His father's dark brown hair was now styled into a shoulder-length, perfectly waved look. And James could hardly believe how flawless his father's makeup was, neat and professional, like he'd just come from a makeup counter. At the sight of his son's stunned reaction, Charles smiled warmly. "Well, what do you think?" he asked in a softer, higher-pitched voice that was still unmistakably his. Without thinking, James responded in the same feminine voice he used when dressed as Jane. "I think you look, lovely, Dad," he stammered. "I'm sorry if I startled you earlier, James. There are a few things we need to talk about," Charles continued. "First, when I'm dressed like this, it doesn't seem right for you to call me Dad. Why don't you call me Tiffany, or better yet, Aunt Trish? That's the name I use when I dress like this." "Okay, Aunt Trish," James said hesitantly, his mind racing. "What is going on here? My father, the serious lawyer, is telling me to call him Aunt Trish?" For a moment, he forgot that he was also wearing a skirt and blouse until Tiffany spoke again. "And I guess James might not be fitting for you either, dressed like you are. What should I call you?" "I kinda like the name Jane," James replied. "Well then, Jane, let's go downstairs to the living room and talk," Tiffany suggested, giving a knowing wink. "But first, I think you should finish your makeup and fix your hair. I'm sure you know how to do it. I'll go make us some tea." With that, Tiffany left the room, leaving a bewildered James, now Jane, sitting on the bed. From the top of the stairs, Tiffany called out, "Hurry up, sweetheart. We've got a lot to discuss." Jane gathered the makeup from the bed and headed back to the bathroom, her mind spinning. Does Dad do this often? Does Mom know? Why have I never seen him dress like this before? With shaking hands, Jane finished applying her makeup. After foundation and eyeliner, she brushed on a soft pink eyeshadow and a dusty rose shade on the lower lid. A light blush followed, and she finished with brownish-red matte lipstick. For the hair, Jane quickly transformed her long hair into a feminine style with a curling iron and hairspray. About 15 minutes after Tiffany had gone downstairs, Jane was putting in her earrings and heading down as well. Still light-headed from the excitement and nervousness, Jane held tightly to the railing as she descended. Tiffany's voice called from the kitchen, "Just sit on the sofa, honey. I'll be right in." Moments later, Tiffany entered the living room with a tray, setting a teapot, 2 china cups, a sugar bowl, and a pitcher of milk on the coffee table. Jane was amazed at how graceful and feminine her father looked. As Tiffany sat on the couch, smoothing her skirt and crossing her ankles, she let out a soft sigh. She took Jane's hands in hers, and for the first time, Jane noticed Tiffany's beautifully manicured nails, painted soft pink. Surely, her father's hands hadn't looked like that before, Jane thought. Tiffany paused and smiled softly. "Now, James, sorry, Jane, it'll take some getting used to. I want you to know, from the start, that I'm not angry with you. Surprised, yes, but not angry. As you can see, I enjoy dressing as a woman too." With a soft laugh, she continued, "I knew I'd have to tell you eventually, but I never imagined it would be like this. In a way, it's easier now because I know you understand. I think I understand. I mean, I knew I wasn't the only boy who liked wearing girls' clothes, but I didn't know my dad did too. How long have you been dressing like this, Aunt Trish?" Jane found herself surprisingly comfortable talking to Tiffany easier, even, than talking to Dad. "Well, dear, I've been dressing since I was a little younger than you. I used to borrow Aunt Margaret's clothes. She and I were about the same size when I was your age. Eventually, she found out and helped me get my own things and taught me how to be a girl. But your grandparents never suspected. I couldn't imagine having this conversation with them. Does Mom know?" Jane's question had been nagging him since the first time he saw his father dressed as a woman. His mother must have suspected something, considering that both he and his father had worn her clothes. "Yes, of course she knows. She's known about my little hobby since before we were married. At first, she didn't know how to process it, but since she knew I was a good man and a good lawyer, she accepted that it was part of who I am. I'm very lucky to have your mom. Most wives wouldn't be as understanding." "So, Mom doesn't mind you wearing her clothes?" Tiffany smiled. "Of course she minds. I'm a full size bigger than your mother, and I'd probably damage her clothes. But what about that outfit you're wearing?" Almost as soon as Jane asked, he realized the answer. The skirt, jacket, blouse, and likely the shoes, stockings, and everything else his father was wearing must belong to him. "This is my outfit, Jane," Tiffany said, confirming Jane's assumption. "I have a closet full of clothes. I can wear some of your mother's things, and she can wear mine. We even buy the same size panties and pantyhose. But we mostly have separate wardrobes. Mine just happens to include both men's and women's clothes." It suddenly clicked for Jane why not all the clothes he tried on from his mother's closet fit. Some of the shoes were just right, some were too small, and some of the bras were 36B while others were 34B. The clothes that didn't fit must have been his mother's, and the ones that did fit were his father's. All this time, he had been borrowing his father's clothes without even realizing it. "So, you're saying that all the dresses and skirts and other things I've been wearing for the past year or so have been yours?" "Yes," Tiffany replied. "A few times, I suspected someone was moving my things around. But I thought it was your mother. A couple of times, I wondered if it might have been you. But if I confronted you, I'd have had to come clean, and I guess I wasn't ready for that. Now at least we can talk about it openly. Oh, Aunt Trish, I'm sorry if I messed anything up. I tried so hard to put everything back the way I found it. I even washed some things and hung them back up, trying to make sure everything was just right. I almost had a heart attack the 2 times I put runs in pantyhose and couldn't return them to the drawer. Don't worry about a thing, Jane, Tiffany reassured him. You didn't damage anything. Those blouses you laundered looked better after you washed them than before. And your mother and I have so many pairs of pantyhose, neither of us would notice if a couple of pairs went missing. I guess we'll be buying hosiery for 3 now. So, all of this is going to be okay with you? Well, don't you think it would be a bit hypocritical if I objected? Tiffany replied with a smile. I think we'll have to start getting you some clothes of your own, a wardrobe for a young woman. Jane could barely contain his excitement at the thought of having his own clothes. Oh, Dad. Trish. Aunt Trish, whoever, thank you so much. You don't know how long I've been afraid of what would happen if you ever found out. Now I feel like the happiest girl in the world. They both laughed together, but it sounded more like the laughter of an aunt and niece than of a father and son. Oh, Aunt Trish, excuse me for a second. I really need to use the bathroom. I'm just so excited. Tiffany smiled and said, Of course, dear, I understand. When you get back, we can talk about shopping. I'm sure you have some ideas of what you'd like to get. Jane practically leaped off the couch. Only the 3-inch pumps prevented him from running up the stairs. As Tiffany gathered the teacups and prepared to take everything back into the kitchen, he picked up the tray and headed for the kitchen. Neither Jane, upstairs in the bathroom, nor Tiffany in the kitchen, heard the front door open and close. Hello. Is anyone home? Called Anna. Where is everyone? When Tiffany heard his wife's voice, he took a deep breath and turned toward the living room. I guess Jane and I have some more explaining to do, he thought. In his most cheerful voice, he called out, Hi, honey. Welcome home, as he walked over to greet his wife. Anna turned from the coat rack, smiling as she replied, Hello, sweetheart. It's so good to be back. However, her smile quickly faded into a look of surprise as she saw her husband. Charles, what are you doing dressed like that? James is supposed to be here. He'll see you. We agreed you wouldn't be Tiffany while he was home until we told him together. Tiffany gently took her hands, saying, I know we agreed to wait, but circumstances have changed. Believe me, I'm just as surprised as you are to be greeting you like this. What are you talking about? What's changed? Where's James? The anxiety in Anna's voice was unmistakable. James is here, Tiffany smiled. Sort of. Please tell me what's going on. Tiffany turned toward the stairs, calling, Jane, come downstairs. Your mother is home. Who's Jane? I don't understand, Anna said, confused. She looked up just as Jane, one hand on the railing, carefully descended the stairs. As soon as the words "Who is that?" left Anna's lips, she gasped. James, what are you doing dressed like that? What's been going on here while I've been away? Hi, Mom, Jane said softly, eyes lowered demurely. Nice to see you, too. Oh, sweetheart, it's so good to see you too. But please, will someone tell me why both the men in my house are standing here looking far prettier than I do right now? At that, the tension seemed to lift. Both Tiffany and Jane burst into laughter, and soon Anna joined in. This is so much to process. James, I know all about your father. But what's going on with you? Did he have anything to do with this? No, Mom. Don't blame Dad. Can we just sit down in the living room and talk about it? Of course, dear. It's just a lot to take in. Let's go sit down. Anna made her way to the couch, with Jane following closely behind and sitting beside her. Tiffany offered Anna a glass of wine, and without waiting for a reply, headed into the kitchen. I suppose you know your father likes to be called Tiffany when he's dressed like that, Anna began. And I heard him call you Jane. Is that your girl's name? Yes, Mom. But you don't have to use it if you don't want to. With a smile, Anna replied, Well, dear, I guess I don't have much choice. It seems like the two of you have accepted the situation. I suppose I will too. But could you tell me how all of this came about? Have I been so out of touch that I didn't know your father knew about you dressing like this? No, we just found out about each other today. I was getting dressed up when Dad came home unexpectedly and caught me. Then he told me to wait in my room. An hour later, he showed up looking like this. I think we were both pretty confused and surprised. I can imagine. So, we've just been sitting and talking when you came home. I've been telling Aunt Trish, that's what Dad asked me to call him, that I've been dressing up for a couple of years. But I always thought I was secretly wearing your things. But he told me I've mostly been wearing his clothes. Yes, I think you're probably closer to his size than mine. Anyway, Jane continued shyly, he told me that I should get my own girl clothes. So the two of you have this all figured out, huh? I must admit, you do look very nice. You've obviously been doing this for a while. I would have thought your father had helped you. Your makeup and hair look great, and your outfit is so well put together. Blushing, Jane said, "Thanks, Mom. I always try to look my best." Well, sweetheart, you do a wonderful job. And I think Tiffany's right. You need your own clothes. We can't have you sneaking around our closets now that we know about you. Jane's face lit up. Oh, thank you, Mom. When Dad first caught me, I thought it was the worst day of my life. Now it feels like one of the best. Anna reached out and embraced her. Oh, Jane, your father and I love you so much. There's nothing you could do to make us think you're anything less than wonderful. Just then, Tiffany returned from the kitchen, holding a glass of wine in one hand and a teacup in the other. I guess things are okay with you too, Tiffany said with a smile as he set down the glass and cup. I hope I can share in some of this love. Of course, dear, Anna said, reaching up to take Tiffany's hand, her arm still around Jane. Jane and I had a lovely conversation. I suppose we'll all have some adjusting to do. I think things will be better around here. We'll just have to get used to having 3 women in the house. Well then, ladies, Tiffany said with a grin, how about we head to the kitchen and make some dinner? While we eat, we can talk about tomorrow. I think we need to plan a shopping trip for Jane. With that, Anna and Jane stood up from the couch, and the 3 of them walked to the kitchen, already chatting about where to go and what to buy. The next morning, Saturday, James woke up, unsure if the previous night had been a dream. A glance at the chair in the corner reassured him it was all real. There, on the chair, were a bra and pantyhose, with a pair of black pumps resting on the floor nearby. After dinner the night before, and for 2 hours afterward, Jane, Anna, and Tiffany had planned a full day of shopping. They had spent part of the evening flipping through catalogs and magazines to figure out what kind of outfits and accessories Jane liked and would need. Jane also showed Tiffany and Anna his favorite pieces from their closets and drawers. The night ended with a long list of items, detailing everything a girl Jane's age with his fashion sense would need. Since Jane had nothing of his own, the list was extensive. It included undergarments like panties, bras, and slips, hosiery like pantyhose, tights, and girls' socks, dresses, skirts, blouses, and tops, and several pairs of shoes, including casual low heels, dressier high heels, and a pair of girls' sneakers. They also planned a visit to the clinic counter for a color analysis and makeover, as both Anna and Tiffany favored clinic, which Jane now preferred as well. Jane would also need necklaces, earrings, hair accessories like barrette, scrunches, and clips. It was going to be a long day of shopping, made even longer by the decision to go to a shopping center nearly 90 minutes away. Anna and Tiffany explained that this location was chosen because it was far enough that no one would recognize Tiffany, even if he were read as a cross-dresser. They also decided that it would be Charles, rather than Tiffany, who would go with them. Both Anna and Charles agreed that it would be more comfortable for Jane to appear as a young woman shopping with her parents, with Charles playing the role of the put-upon husband and father, tasked with paying the bill and carrying the bags while mother and daughter planned to run up his credit card. As James replayed the events of the previous evening in his mind, his mother knocked softly on the door before opening it. "Time to get up, dear. It's going to be a special day." Come downstairs for some breakfast, then shower. We'll get you ready for your first day out as Jane. Anna gave him a little wink as she closed the door. James quickly got out of bed, threw on his bathrobe, hoping it would be replaced by something more feminine later, and headed downstairs. When James entered the kitchen, Charles looked up from his paper. "Good morning. How did you sleep last night?" Having spent more time with Aunt Trish than with Dad over the past 24 hours, it took James a moment to adjust to the man sitting at the table. Charles looked like any other suburban husband and father enjoying his day off, dressed in casual chinos, a polo shirt, and comfortable loafers. No one would guess that he also looked great in a skirt suit and heels. "I slept really well, Dad. Once I calmed down, anyway. I was pretty excited about everything that happened last night." "I imagine so. I hope today is just as exciting for you. I must admit, I wish I had a shopping spree like yours when I was your age." "That probably sounds strange coming from your old man, doesn't it?" "Well, it must have been pretty strange for you to find your son in a skirt and blouse. I'm still not sure I really believe all this is happening." Just then, Anna entered, saying, "Well, you both better believe it. We've got a lot to do today, so hurry up and eat so we can get you ready." She paused as James grabbed a box of cereal before adding, "That is, if you still want to go through with it." James quickly replied, "I'm a little nervous, but I think I'm ready for it." With a light-hearted tone, Charles added, "And I want our son to stop borrowing my clothes. So I guess we're committed." James hurriedly finished his bowl of frosted flakes and then rushed to the bathroom to shower. His mother had asked him to come straight to the master bedroom once he was done, so he slipped on the bra and panties his father had lent him, cinched his robe, and made his way down the hall. "Come on in, dear, and let me know if you like what we've picked out for you today. Your father and I talked last night and thought we'd suggest an outfit. You don't have to wear it if you don't want to, but we thought it would be comfortable and not draw too much attention. We know what kind of outfits girls your age wear to the mall, and we thought that would be the wrong choice for your first outing. Also, since you'll be trying on a lot of clothes today, we picked something that would be easy to slip in and out of quickly. Anyway, come on over and see," Anna said, motioning for James to come to the bed where the clothes were laid out. Neatly arranged on the bed was a black knit pullover dress with a gentle princess neckline and short sleeves. Beside it was a pair of semi-sheer pantyhose and simple black loafers with about a 1-inch heel. "What do you think?" Anna asked. "Oh, Mom, it's perfect. Actually, I can tell you now that I've worn this dress before." "And with black tights," James admitted, a little sheepishly. "But the shoes are new to me. Your father and I thought you'd like this dress based on what you showed us last night," Anna added, lowering her voice conspiratorially, "and it's one of Tiffany's favorites, too." At that, James suppressed a small giggle. The dress slips on and off easily, as do the shoes. The stockings are pretty neutral, so we'll get a good idea of how everything looks when you try them on. One thing you'll discover is that women have to plan their outfits for shopping just like they would for a party. You'll wear yourself out if you have to fiddle with zippers and buttons during a shopping trip. Just then, Charles walked into the room. "She's absolutely right. The first few times I went shopping as Tiffany, I had a hell of a time getting in and out of the clothes I wore, skirts with long back zippers, blouses with tiny buttons. Now, let's hurry up and get going." He clapped his hands together and added, "Come on, let's get moving." James, with a sarcastic grin, replied, "Boy, you'd never know Tiffany existed with general pattern here." Charles chuckled and said, all right, I get it. But we do have a drive ahead of us, James. So let's get Jane and get going." "Okay, Charles," Anna said, "go downstairs and wait. Maybe there's a boxing match or stock car race on TV to keep you busy for a while." "Women," Charles sighed as he turned and left. "Now, Jane, since you like the clothes, take them to your room and put on your makeup. Nothing too heavy, just about half as intense as last night. Remember, we're going to the mall. Once your face is done, come check with me before you get dressed." "Okay, Mom. Can I use the stuff on your vanity?" Yes, take what you need, sweetheart. But hurry, she said with a wink. Your father won't wait all day. Jane quickly gathered the essentials, foundation, blush, lipstick, and eye makeup, and headed to the bathroom. With practiced efficiency, Jane smoothed on just enough foundation to even out his skin tone. He followed with pinkish neutral eyeshadow, soft brown eyeliner, and a touch of mascara on his naturally long lashes. A light pink blush and careful application of lipstick completed his look. After blow-drying his damp hair, he curled his bangs and, as an afterthought, applied a quick-drying coat of nail enamel. This added another 10 minutes to his preparation, prompting a knock on the bathroom door. James. Jane, are you done yet? Just about, Mom. I did my nails too. That's what took so long. Just come on in and check me out. Anna opened the door and gasped slightly when she saw Jane. Jane, I must say, you look wonderful. It's clear you've been practicing. I think you look even better than last night, more like a 16 or 17-year-old than a girl in her 20s. Jane blushed a little at the compliment. Thanks, Mom. I don't always try to look like one of your law clerks. Well, right now you look exactly your age and perfect for our shopping trip. Now go get dressed, and I'll get you some jewelry. How about a pair of small hoop earrings and my gold locket? That would be great, Mom. And could I wear one of your watches, or one of Dad's? I mean, one of Tiffany's. Of course, dear, and I'll get you a bracelet, too. Mom, I still can't believe how great you and Dad are being about all this. I really love you guys. We love you too, James. That's why we're doing this. Your father and I know too well that cross-dressing isn't something that goes away. We've talked about it a lot and think it's better to help you now than for you to go through a lot of problems later. We just hope you'll use good judgment about when, where, and how often you dress up. That's something your father can help with, if you'll let him. I really want him to, James said with a grin. After all these years, I've finally found something we can do together. And Dad always thought I wasn't interested in the things he likes. Now he'll stop asking me to work on the car or learn to play golf. I suppose you're right. But now you have another father-son activity to share. Now hurry up and finish. I'll put your clothes in your room, Anna replied. Thanks, Mom, for everything. Oh, you're welcome, sweetheart, Anna said warmly, kissing James on the cheek. Now just come downstairs when you're dressed. Okay. I'll be there in a few minutes, James said, following his mother out of the bathroom and down the hall to his room. He sat on the edge of the bed, grabbed the pantyhose, rolled up the legs, and slipped them on. After adjusting the waist, he tucked everything in, smoothing out his front. How amazing, he thought as he looked in the mirror. Here I am, in my room, with the door open, Mom and Dad in the house, standing here in panties, a bra, and pantyhose. Mom even helped with my makeup. Just yesterday, I was trying to keep all of this a secret, and now they're taking me shopping for a girl's wardrobe. He giggled and sighed, startled by how girlish his voice sounded. He also thought he looked pretty girlish, and that was just fine. A few minutes later, he slipped on the dress, added his earrings, watch, bracelets, and necklace. The low-heeled loafers completed the look. Jane did a quick twirl, admiring how the dress flared out and how sensuous it felt against his nylons. He must have been lost in his thoughts, checking himself out from every angle, because before he knew it, his father was standing at the door. Come on, princess, we have a schedule to keep, Charles said with a grin. Oh, and here's your purse. I've put everything in it that you'll need, except your lipstick. Grab that and come on down. Jane put her hand on her hip, adopting an exaggerated teenage attitude. Yes, Daddy. They both burst into laughter, and Charles added, from sullen son to drama queen daughter. Things have definitely gotten more interesting around here. He extended his hand, and for the first time since he was a little boy, father and son walked hand in hand into a new life.